Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens Podcast. I'm Chad Thomas. That's Jamie Weidner. And that's Kirstin Tricano. Oh my goodness, I'm off to a great start already, and I haven't
One day you'll get my name right.
Probably not.
Not today.
And I'm sorry. See, the reverb really worked there, Jamie. So
It really did.
So anyway, we are with Paranormal Lens with Jotnik's Paranormal. We're here every Tuesday night at 9:00, always talking about some sort of paranormal thing. And this one's a little different, but I'm looking forward to it. But before we get there, Jamie, how was your week?
So good. It's funny. Like I say this like every week, I guess, but like Tuesday to Tuesday goes by so fast. I don't know that anything exceptional happened, which I guess is good. No one got overly sick this week, which is fantastic given all the things that are going around. All the good stuff. So knock on something that's probably fake wood to say that all's well.
Uh-huh.
Don't want to jinx it.
Okay, cool. Kirstin, what about you?
Well, I think last week I jinxed myself by saying nothing interesting happened because yesterday was interesting for me. I somehow cut my eye, so I had to go to the ER for that.
You didn't see it coming?
Wait, what?
You didn't see it coming? Come on.
You know what? No, I did not.
Obviously not.
But no, that was fun. My whole right eye was nice and swollen and would not open up, so that was fun.
I smell sarcasm, so okay.
I think Bert's at the wrong spot. He's looking for a photography class.
That's the next podcast over.
But we're glad you're with us, Bert. So thank you. My week was the same as it's been. Busy with working on the Music Man at the high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think the young one and I worked a 13-hour day yesterday.
Ooh.
I heard.
And we were both very exhausted. Apparently, they curled up on the dog bed and fell asleep all night.
Yep. So, yeah. Well, the dog's been under the weather this last couple of days, so there is someone in our house that's unwell. But
okay.
So of course she needed cuddles, and was more than willing and able, and actually fits on the dog bed. So the funny thing is, this morning, as I get up and get moving, I find M still there, but the dog nowhere to be found on the bed itself, out on the couch instead. So I don't know at what point the dog gave up, but M was an intrepid caregiver all night long. So
okay, well that's how that usually goes. I mean, so
that or the 13 hours just wore him out completely and zonked out all night. So I'll go with the caregiver part, though. It sounds nice.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you guys ready to get started on this? We've been talking about this one since October, actually. So I mean, it's interesting. I don't have any slides. I sorry. It's there aren't a lot of images of some of the stuff, but it's more of theory. So let's just go with it and see what happens. All right. Tonight's episode isn't about proving ghosts exist, and it isn't about debunking them. Instead, we are looking at a collision. On one side, we have the law, and the law is supposed to be cold, is supposed to be logical. It demands admissible evidence. It demands a chain of custody. It is a system built by the living for the living. On the other side, we have belief, the things we feel in the dark, the stories mothers tell about their daughters, the panic that grips a neighborhood in the middle of the night. So tonight we explore what happens when these two worlds collide, when a courtroom, a place of fluorescent lights and dry paperwork, is forced to deal with shadows. We aren't just telling ghost stories. We're telling the stories of how the dead, even if they aren't there, can still reach out and change a verdict. So let's go back to January of 1897. Greenbrier County, West Virginia. It is a landscape of rugged hills and isolated homesteads. A young woman named Zona Shue is found at the bottom of the stairs by a neighbor's boy. Her husband, Erasmus Stribling Troutshoe, let's just call him Edward, is already there when the doctor arrives. Edward is acting the part of the grieving widower.
Hey, Chad, you're fading out a little bit there. Can you lean in?
What's that? Oh, is that better?
Yeah. Sorry, just got
Yeah.
muffled.
Okay. But he's acting it aggressively.
Names all over again. How crazy they are.
What's that?
Can you say all those names again out there?
No.
Please.
I was like, really?
He has already moved the body to the bedroom. He has already dressed her in a high-collared dress and a stiff veil. And as the doctor, George Knapp, tries to examine her, Edward cradles her head. He sobs. He becomes agitated if the doctor gets too close to her neck. Dr. Knapp, perhaps wanting to avoid a scene with a grieving man, makes a fatal mistake. He lists the cause of death as everlasting faintness, which at this time period is another term for heart attack. Zona is buried, and the case is closed. But Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, never liked Edward. She prayed for a sign, and according to her sworn testimony, she got one. For 4 nights, Mary Jane claimed Zona appeared in her room, not as a glowing angel, but as a cold, bright light that transformed into a woman. The spirit told her that Edward had a temper, that he had broken her neck because he didn't like the dinner she had cooked. Now here's where the gavel meets the ghost. Mary Jane doesn't go to the town gossip. She spends hours in the office of the prosecuting attorney, John Alfred Preston. She is so consistent, so specific, that Preston begins to wonder, did she see a ghost, or is her mother's intuition sensing a forensic truth? It didn't really matter because he ordered an exhumation. The town gathered, they peel back the earth, and when the surgeon opens the neck, they find that the windpipe has been crushed, and the first and second vertebrae were fractured. Edward Shue's trial was a circus, but the prosecution was smart. They didn't mention the ghost. They stuck to the broken neck. But the defense, they thought they could win by making Mary Jane look insane. They asked her, "Didn't you say your daughter's ghost told you this?" They expected her to crumble, but instead, she looked at the jury and said, "I am as surely convinced that I saw her as I am that I am sitting here today." Now, the jury didn't care if it was a ghost or a mother's hunch. They saw a man who hid a broken neck, and then Edward Shue was sentenced to life. The Greenbrier case teaches us our first lesson. The law doesn't need to believe in ghosts to use the evidence they leave behind. So if Greenbrier is the success story, our next stop is the cautionary tale. In 1803, London, the Industrial Revolution is beginning, but the streets are still dark and full of folklore. Hammersmith is being haunted. Witnesses claim a tall figure in white is jumping out from behind tombstones. One woman is so frightened she reportedly dies of shock. The community forms an armed watch. Francis Smith is a 29-year-old customs officer. He's on patrol with a shotgun. He sees a figure in white, in a white jacket and white trousers in a dark lane. He shouts, "Who are you? Who are you?" But the figure keeps walking towards him. So Smith fires. The figure hits the ground, but it isn't a ghost. It's Thomas Millwood, a bricklayer, and he was wearing his white work clothes, the uniform of his trade. This case, Rex versus Smith, changed British law forever. Smith's defense was, it was an honest mistake. He said, "I didn't mean to kill a man, I meant to kill a ghost." The jury originally tried to find him guilty of manslaughter. They felt bad for him. He was just trying to help the neighborhood. But the judge had other thoughts. The judge said, "If you kill a man, it's murder, even if you think he is a spirit. The law cannot allow fear of the unknown to become a license to kill." So think about the weight of that. The law effectively told the public, your ghosts are not a valid legal reality. You are responsible for your trigger finger, no matter how scared you are. So Francis Smith was sentenced to death, though later he was pardoned. But the precedent remained. In the eyes of the court, a ghost is just a man you haven't identified yet. Now, British courts continued to reinforce that boundary with an iron fist. But as we look deeper into the legal archives, we find a case that is as mysterious as ghosts themselves. It's the case of R versus Hay from 1841. In this case, a witness walked into a courtroom and claimed that a ghost had personally identified the thief responsible for a crime. The court's reaction? There was no debate, no philosophical discussion. The court refused to hear it outright. The ruling was simple. Ghosts do not testify. Evidence must come from human observation and verifiable action, period. The supernatural was never allowed to enter the record. But here's where the story gets strange. There is actually no primary source documentation for this case available today. No fully preserved transcripts exist in the official archives. Instead, R versus Hay exists as a ghost in the law books itself, a secondary source citation. It was first cited by Thomas Starkey in A Practical Treatise of the Law, on the Law of Evidence, and then later by John Pitt Taylor. In Taylor's publication, the case is paraphrased roughly as evidence of a ghost appearing to a witness and revealing the identity of a crime was rejected as inadmissible. It is the ultimate irony, a case about a ghost which itself has no physical body in legal records, yet it remains the foundation for why spirits are banned from the witness stand. This total rejection of the supernatural led to a different kind of legal strategy, the sidestep. So as we move into the 20th century, ghosts in the courtroom changes. It stops being about murder, and it starts being about money. We're going to move to Borley Rectory. For decades, this was the most haunted house in England. But look at the characters involved. You have Harry Price, a man who was half scientist, half showman. Borley never had a murder trial. Instead, it had insurance adjusters. When the house burned down in 1939, the question wasn't who did it. The question was this an insurance scam or a paranormal event? The Society for Psychical Research, the SPR, became a de facto court. They interviewed the rectors, they interviewed the maids, and they found that many of the ghosts were actually pranks that the residents had pulled or natural phenomena that the press had exaggerated. And these included bones being found, skulls being found in cabinets, all sorts of things along those lines. Borley Rectory never produced a court ruling about ghosts. What it shaped instead was legal practice, reinforcing that reputation, insurance liability, and property disputes are governed by evidence and impact, not belief. Borley shows us how the law quietly sidelined the paranormal without ever confronting it. In 1967, a quiet law office in Rosenheim, Germany, became the center of a chaotic, unexplained phenomenon. It started with light bulbs exploding in their sockets. Then the phones began to ring incessantly, with no one on the other end. Electrical meters, the old kind with the spinning dial, began spinning at impossible speeds. The authorities didn't just call a priest, they called in physicists and forensic investigators. Even the insurance companies arrived, demanding a rational explanation for the damage. The suspicion, of course, was fraud. Someone had to be tampering with the wires. But after weeks of high-level scrutiny, no trickery could be found, no rational explanation could be proven. So, the German legal system did what it does best. It didn't declare the office haunted, and it didn't officially recognize a poltergeist. Instead, it simply dismissed the charges. Not because they accepted the supernatural, but because they couldn't prove human misconduct. The law requires certainty. It demands a chain of cause and effect. And in the Rosenheim case, when certainty disappeared, the legal case collapsed. Because in a courtroom, if you can't prove who did it, it doesn't matter what was done. This brings us to a term every home buyer should know: stigmatized property. In modern law, from the US to Japan, courts have to decide, is a ghost a physical defect? If your roof leaks, you have to tell the buyer. If your basement is full of spirits, do you have to let them know? Stamvowski versus Ackley in 1991. This is the Ghostbuster ruling. A man buys a house in Nyack, New York. After signing the papers, he finds out the house is famous for being haunted by reading Reader's Digest, and he sues to buy it back out. The New York Court of Appeals had a problem. They couldn't say ghosts are real, but they also couldn't ignore the house had a reputation that lowered its value. Justin Rubin famously wrote, "As a matter of law, the house is haunted." What he meant was, because the seller promoted the house as haunted in magazines, she had created a condition that the buyer couldn't see during the inspection. The court couldn't validate the ghost. They validated the marketing. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we still talking about these cases? In an age of DNA sequencing, satellite tracking, and digital forensics, why does a ghost story from 1897 still hold our attention? It's because the law is our ultimate attempt to build a world of certainty. It is a lighthouse. We want to believe if we follow the procedures, if we respect the rules of evidence, the truth will eventually emerge into the light. But as we've seen tonight, the old world, the world of shadows, spirits, and the unexplained, it never really went away. It just changed its clothes. So let's look at the evolution we've tracked. In Greenbrier, the ghost was a voice for a victim who couldn't speak. It was the only way a grieving mother could force a cold system to look at the bruises it had missed. In Hammerstein, the ghost was a mask for human panic. It was a reminder that when we are afraid of the dark, we become the very monsters we are trying to hunt. In Rosenheim, the ghost was a glitch in the machine, a moment where physics and law failed simultaneously, leaving a courtroom with no choice but to walk away in silence. And finally, in New York, the ghost becomes a line item on a real estate contract, a latent defect, a financial liability. Now, the gavel and the ghost will always be a tug of war. The law tries to ignore the supernatural. It tries to build a high wall of admissible facts to keep the spirits out. But the law is practiced by humans, and humans are driven by belief. We don't bring ghosts into the courtroom because we've proven they exist. We bring them in because they represent the things the law can't always reach: our intuition, our deepest fears, and our desperate need for justice when the living have failed us. The law may be blind, but it has a very long memory. And as long as there are corners of the human experience that logic cannot illuminate, the dead will continue to have their day in court. Now, it's pretty short, but that's what I've got right now. So here are some sources. I've got mentalfloss.com /history/law/ghost-trials, home.heinonline.org, blog /2024/10/behind the bindings 5 creepy court cases in the Law Journal Library. Jamie, as always, there's Atlas Obscura /places/Greenbrier Ghost of the Sandblock Church, and law.justia.com cases, New York Appellate Division, First Department. If you go there, you can track it down. There's way too many numbers and letters and dashes. And then we have www.discovery.uk.com /mysteries /the Hammerstein Ghost, London's Paranormal Murder. And then www.history.extra.com /period /Victorian /Ghost Hunters Harry Price Borley Rectory Investigation. So that was a mouthful. Like I said, it was pretty short, but it brought up some interesting points. So what do you guys think?
Jamie, I'm getting my thoughts together.
I was ready to let you go.
I know, but I'm getting my thoughts together. So
I want to step back to the first case, the Greenbrier one.
Uh-huh.
I missed this. Where in the world is this? Or was this?
The Greenbrier was West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I thought. So a curious thing on a personal note is I am a relative of the shoe family, and that's Shue, I assume.
Uh-huh.
Okay, not the traditional shoe, like foot thing you put on your foot. So it was the name caught me there, and then the Knapp and the attorney, I believe it was, is a local name in our area or region. So
Uh-huh.
as well, so it's a very common name around here. So I assume I'd be closer than West Virginia, but which isn't that far from where we are in South Central Pennsylvania. So it was rather interesting. I wonder if I connect with some of my family if they have any knowledge of it in there. It's a marriage relation, not a
Right.
direct tie, but um, we have and the one thing in every family that makes it all happen are cousins, right?
Uh-huh.
So you check in with mine and see if anybody knows anything there. There's quite a few on the shoe side, so it's very very curious. Otherwise, it's interesting. When we were going back to Whispers in the Dark over right in the theater, how
Mm-hmm.
this kind of got started with Megan Baum, the managing director there. She just finished up her law degree recently, and we were chatting on that episode. You go back and look at it, if you're interested. But um, you know, um, she kind of spurred the thought. But you don't. There are so many things right out there. You can't pursue everything. Some things just kind of slide away, or some things you never know about. This was one I think for both of us that piqued our interest because it's different.
Right.
There's something here that we're not. It's not common. When it comes to the paranormal, it's usually a ghost, and it's cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened to someone, and therefore there's a thing happening. An event occurring. But we don't think about the consequences and the actions and the, the after effect of someone passing. There's largely legal action involved, depending on especially if it's someone didn't die of natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
Unnatural causes means usually somebody something happened to them, and someone therefore might be liable
Mm-hmm.
or is liable. So there's a process, and all of that, and then more specifically too. And I've teased this has been on the schedule, but not really a couple of times for me is like paranormal and real estate, you know, um, buying a home that's active, and the disclosure side of it. And I think Bert made a comment back here a little bit. This one it says that we were talking in that concept or in that context. He says, "Nope, don't even have to disclose a death or a murder there, being in a home that's active or
Mm-hmm.
has had something." So I always think of the scene from Step Brothers. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's hysterical.
Good
Um,
movie.
Thank you. They're the parents, the step parents, the step brothers, respective parents separate. The house is getting sold, but they don't want it to sell, so they're staging all of these occurrences while people are coming to see it. One of them is, one of them's dead, and the other one's holding him in the foyer. When the agent comes in, and the person says, "Nope, I can't deal with any more death." Like it's a regular thing for them,
Uh-huh.
and they bolt. Uh, but you don't know,
Right.
and you have an active home that you grew up in. You didn't know of it until later in life. As you explored it and found out more about it. I live in an older home. I've lived in several older homes. Welcome to East Coast. Everything's old here. For
Mm-hmm.
what we have in the U.S. and go to Europe, of course. We're babies there in the sense of our history, and properties. But there's got to be stuff, and the the law end of it is fascinating because there is reason for litigation, and once it makes it to the court, it's public record, and I'm sure there's more out there that's just probably not coded the right way or as
Right.
quick and easy to find, via Google search. But if you know where to look and how to look, I'm sure we could come across so many more cases or instances that would be fascinating. This could go on for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been going on for quite a while.
Right. When do you remember when we talked about Japan, Jamie, that there, houses that were haunted, there was a whole thing about that in Japanese law, and like living in them as a specific thing, and I don't remember the details, but there was a whole section about that.
Yep.
I would
And
not want to live in a haunted house in Japan.
so, but
other countries are okay? Is that what you're saying?
The spirits in Japan are terrifying. Nothing's friendly there.
oh, but yeah, that was a good episode. Japan was interesting. I definitely say that. So
We've done a few there. All right, and here's some. Oh, you go.
Yeah, I got it.
So Heather is an agent, and this is some actual. So she says, "You do not have to disclose, but trust me, the neighbors will fill in any potential buyers. In my experience, neighbors just can't wait to stop over and tell buyers all the gossip. And I'm sure not just about anything, it's paranormal."
Everything.
Yeah, I just had a 5-year anniversary in our house this past week, and I was thinking back to it. The first time I met my neighbors, it was exactly that. Just first of all, they had to tell me all about the previous owners, like in the sense of who they were, and I think they were trying to feel us out whether we were the same kind of people, which is cool, I guess, sorta. And then it was everybody else, because like I haven't had a chance to unpack a box yet. Like, dude, calm down. I'll meet them. Like I don't need this all to happen right now.
Right?
Are you sure?
Party tomorrow. And well, here we are 5 years later, and I still know like the 4 people that live around me, and that's it.
Right?
Because that's the world we live in now, to some degree. But she's right, and you will the neighborhood gossip train, will make a stop at your house, and you'll hear all of the tea will be spilled, whether you want it to or not.
Yep.
There is no
that's
doubt.
after the fact, though, right? That's as a buyer, you are going to get that data too late if it would be a deal breaker for you.
Right.
So I don't know if that's good or bad.
Thinking of that now, home that I grew up in from like 2010 up to like I'd say like 2019. My mom passed away in that house, and like she was around. She made herself known, and when that house got sold, my mind went to like, who's gonna tell them that my mom is there? So I don't know if she still is. Like, I'm not sure, but I'm like, she liked to like knock things off in like the showers and everything. I'm like, is she still doing that? I mean, I'm like, no, that was never disclosed to them.
Well, my dad's house is one of those houses that everybody knows, and if you don't know, even if you drive by and you look at it, it's one of those houses you go, that's a haunted house. Stacy had told me that. I don't remember that or not, Jamie.
Remember that. Yep.
But I mean, I think there's, we disclosed the ghost before some other things about that house. so anyway.
Well, from a research perspective, as the researcher and the knowledge, the content expert here, the knowledge expert, what do you think? Where are you at? Where's this land for you?
I mean, I think it's one of those, like, you're never going to bring ghosts into the courtroom, but you're never going to keep them out either. Like, but it's not going to be direct testimony. We can't ever, it's just like science. You can't make a ghost sit there and testify, and you may not be able to use what a ghost told you, but you can always link to it. And I think that, we've proven that with the case in Greenbrier. The story is this, but you can't use a ghost as an excuse for a crime either, because you like, if you did a crime and you say the ghost made me do it, well, you're the one who either stole the thing, you pulled the trigger, it's going to come back to you.
Or you think you were trying to kill a ghost and you actually killed a person.
Right.
Like the one case.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's interesting. Again, like I said, I don't think you're not going to pull them in 100%, but you're not going to keep them out 100%. And it has, these things have formed the way law is looked at. Some of these old cases, I found it interesting that the case that has the most pull saying that, you can't use a ghost to testify, they don't have proof that ever happened. It's you've just got somebody's story that it happened.
Right.
So it's interesting.
It is. And what's like, there's the lack of physical evidence, becomes the challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, is it admissible? And hearsay really isn't. That's usually something that's stricken. So, I've watched enough episodes of Matlock to know that back in the day, with the new version, the old version, all these court dramas, shows you watch, you kind of get a feel for, and trusting that that's actual, because I'm not, I have no legal training, so I don't get to hang out in courtrooms. I don't want to. I've never been prosecuted or a defendant. So, to trial. So, I trust that what's being presented to me in the entertainment world is based on some truth. It's some physical, actual things. But, you realize that certain things probably will never make it. But you can still paint pictures around it,
Right.
And I think that's where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that really, I guess it depends if it's a jury of peers or if it's just a judge. It's the lean then of that body that you're presenting to, where they want to go with it or what they'll take for it, from it. It's
Right.
fascinating, because that's the crapshoot of all of it, right?
Right.
Slam dunk cases sometimes just aren't believable, and people walk,
Right.
or technicalities occur, I guess. But that's something.
Yep. So here's another interesting comment from Heather.
Yeah.
We had a house that was selling, and the husband murdered the wife in it. We had it under contract 3 times, and 3 times during inspections, the neighbor came over and told the buyers. We lost all 3 deals. We had to go to the neighbor and tell them that if he didn't stop, we would rent it out to the worst people we could find. He was costing us thousands of dollars.
Oof. I mean, I'd get pretty mad trying to sell a house and someone's telling all the gossip.
Yeah. And Bert said, if an attorney had enough guts to bring the paranormal into the case with all the TV shows, I'm pretty sure the jury would listen. So, I mean, that's an interesting twist on it to show how times have changed.
Sure. Well, that's the reach of media right now. All
Right.
the entertainment resources are everywhere, and it's hard not to step into something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would guess that I would be challenged to think that there's somebody who doesn't at least have a vague awareness of what Ghostbusters is.
Right.
And all the time ago that was, how iconic it's become in our culture or pop culture. Even there to have some working knowledge. That's just amazing to me, much less the programming that's definitely available every night of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Every media outlet. Okay, good point.
So, yeah. Kirstin, do you have any thoughts? You were trying to pull everything together.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine how you can use a ghost in the courtroom. To me, it's like okay, the first one, the Greenbrier, where it was very much, if the mother would have stumbled through that, they could have been like, okay, she's insane. But the fact that she was so confident, it's still like, how can you prove her wrong now?
Right.
She's so confident and certain about it. I feel like it's like it could be like, either it's going to go really well or it's going to go really wrong.
Mm-hmm. But in the Greenbrier one, it wasn't the ghost that provided the evidence. It was
It
the
was the mother.
mother who provided the evidence. It's just how she got, like, she never
Right.
took that into court. Like, the evidence was just presented in court.
And they could have just continued to go, oh, she's just insane.
Right. It was the prosecuting attorney who forced the exhumation and relooked at the facts.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, that probably goes back to the doctor not doing his due diligence at the beginning of the process. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. So, any other thoughts on that?
Good, thank you. That's good. It's a really interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I want to thank Megan for bringing it up to us, and hopefully she sees it and gives us some feedback and see if there's any. Because I know she said this actually came up in one of her law classes, and it'd be interesting to see if it was one of these or if there's something that I completely missed. So
I'd be interested to see if there are more like smaller stories about cases like this.
when I was looking for things, there was a lot of things, but it didn't tie into actual court cases. It was just weird, like, side shoots.
Gotcha.
So, but I don't know even how to explain it, but it just didn't tie into actual court or law, or they were trying to twist things to make it fit.
Gotcha.
So cool. So if you guys don't have anything else, should we move on to what's coming up next?
Yeah,
Sure.
Well, I know the person presenting tonight isn't going to stumble over this first thing, so go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, so this is me actually, so I will. Next week's episode will be the glowing people of Barranco de Badajoz, which is in the Canary Islands, which is in the territory of the country of Spain. So we're going worldly out to the Mid Atlantic next week, and it's an interesting graphic you've provided there, sir. It's
I like it.
somewhat of a beam me up Scotty Star Trek thing going on. I don't know, but cool. Yeah, it's kind of the spirit of it, pun intended. So more to come next week. Hope you tune in.
Okay.
And after that, on the 3rd of February, Kirstin's going to tackle the man, the myth, the Mothman. Coming back around to chat on the 10th, elemental echoes, ancient forces, and modern encounters. And after that, between river and legend, the legend of the Loveland Frogman. Thanks for not using that other tag before, sir. I appreciate the update. It is still really long, though.
It's very long.
Dude. Do you get paid by the word? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
that explains so much.
In that case, okay. I used to have employees who moved very slowly to get tasks done, and I always said, I don't pay you by the step, right? They just move slower, so go figure. And after that, Kirstin's coming back with the Tower of London, crowns, chains, and ghosts. All the above.
All three.
All the time.
Very cool.
Every day.
Every day. All day. Get your tickets now. All right. And we talked about this quite a bit, but coming up on the January 30th and 31st, next Friday, next Saturday, we will be in Hanover, Virginia for the Hanover Tavern Paracon. We are officially on the vendor list to have a table there to talk about the Paranormal Lens Podcast and all things paranormal, spooky, fun, cool stuff. So if you're in and around the Hanover area, which is just north of Richmond, Virginia, stop by. It's a great event. It's several years now, I think 5 or 6 years. Actually, our first time going officially. Chad's been there before and talked it up so well. We had to go do it with all of us. So
and don't let the word vendor scare you. We're not selling anything.
We're not selling a thing. Yeah, we'll have some stickers and all that good stuff.
I will sell my terrible jokes.
Mine are free. They're endless. So. Yeah, so as a vendor, we're just in the page. That's why I say it that way. There's a lot of cool people there, a lot of great presenters, speakers, so forth over the 2 days. Friday is 12 to 6, Saturday is 11 to 7, something like that. So very, very full weekend of activity around the paranormal stuff. And of course, It's the Hanover Tavern. So
It's a
go back
great
and check
venue.
out our episode that Steve Dills, our good friend, hosted for us, presented for us. Fantastic. He and Chris did a great job about a year and a half ago. So it's in the archives. And there's a picture of Steve right there. So.
Yep.
And then how to find us. So obviously you were here through our very live episode tonight, but there's some resources to catch up to us as Jot Nix Paranormal and all of the stuff that we offer. First and foremost is our website, which is jot-nixparanormal.com. That's JOTT-NYX paranormal.com. JOTT stands for just one of those things, and then Nix is the Greek goddess of night. So just one of those things of the night for those who might be interested. And then you can always email us at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. We certainly do listener submission episodes. We've done several. We'll do many more, of course, as long as they come in. We're happy to jump on them and get to it. We self-produce, so we can move that schedule you saw around easily. Just ask for a little bit of time to do some research, to do justice to the topic. And certainly you might be able to come on and be a guest with us. It's something that is that passionate for you. We're happy to have that happen. So, and then we have a link tree, which is all of our resources, all the socials, all the good stuff. We have a team store. All of that is at linktree/paranormal lens. That's linktr.ee/paranormal lens, all spelled out. And we talked about this last week. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page. So buymeacoffee.com/paranormal9. If you're interested at all in supporting us in our programming and our efforts to get good content out to you, we would certainly appreciate it. It's an easy way to do so, not a commitment of any significance, but basically just buy us a cup of coffee. And the proceeds will help us offset the costs for operating the program. Unfortunately, those things, like everything, is accelerating these days. So we really would appreciate your support, and look forward to seeing you around the way.
Yep. Heather has a question for us.
Oh, yeah. So are you setting up your lounge at your booth again? Maybe. I haven't gotten a commitment to the size of our booth yet, our space, but if at all possible, yes. For what that means is we did the Crescent Paracon in Crescent, PA this past summer, and we had some love seats, pop-up love seats set up, and we had a lounge. We get folks come in, we ask them about their paranormal experience, what brings them to the paranormal, their story essentially, and we got quite a lot of feedback. Really cool how people open up. Everybody's got a story of some kind or some reason for being interested, and it didn't hurt. I joke about this a lot, I guess. It didn't hurt that we were right next to the food truck and we had a place for people to sit down.
Uh-huh.
But still, folks were willing and engaged in the conversation, and we learned a lot about a lot of people. And the pressure on our end of it, we're not recording it. We're not, there's nothing more than just a couple of people having a conversation. So we'd like to be able to do that again, and we will if we can, and if not here or elsewhere along the way.
Yep.
That's another entry point too. Is just tell us your story. And drop us a line. Let us know how you got connected to the paranormal, how you found us. We're certainly all in. So, Bert's got a comment about with a heater because it's January. We're indoors on this one, so.
Oh, thank God.
We are, but it is an old carriage house.
It is that. So, yeah.
And I will tell you, the last time I was down there, it did snow. Yeah, being right. In Virginia, it was a messy day, and I drove down and back in the same day, and it was a day, but it was a great day. So,
well, Chad, I'm going to tell you something that you should know, and you're going to experience it this next week, is that Virginia is more fun when you sleep over.
Yeah.
So, and Hanover is more fun when you sleep over. So, we don't have to worry about the travel back and forth in the same day, at least. So.
Yep, this is true. So
it's all right. The apartment may be haunted. It's okay.
See, here's a market. Go back to this. Here's a marketing ploy, right? So as things are, these shared spaces like VRBOs or Airbnbs, whatever. There's a lot of different ways of connecting to a shared, rental space. I think somebody's missing the mark if they're not saying their place is haunted, because there's people like us out there going around to different venues, and spaces and places. I mean, there's haunted places everywhere that you can go to. And when you do, you got to stay somewhere while you're out. We did this. Chad, you and I and the Lynches stayed together when we went to Tala, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. It wasn't marketed as a haunted home, but if it was, how much cooler would that have been?
Well, Jamie, there is a website called bookahauntedhouse.com.
All right, there's something
Perfect.
for everybody. That's it. There is something for everybody.
You can add your house to the list if you want.
Sweet.
I'm pretty sure.
Put that in the comments. We got to look at that.
I'm pretty sure when I was don't remember where I was going to stay, but I was looking on Airbnb for a place to it was up in New York, and there was what came up was a haunted apartment. Like, it was labeled a haunted apartment, and part of me was like, that is very tempting. It was just $400 a night.
There are none listed in Pennsylvania right now, though.
We can change that.
All right, fine.
But
yeah. All right. Well, Pennsylvanians, if you're out there listening and you got a place, there you go.
Yep.
Start putting your houses up.
So
there's your side hustle.
I was gonna say, if this didn't exist, Jamie, we could have made it happen. We could have figured out a way.
We want to stay in your haunted house.
So
actually, we do. So hey, let us know.
I would.
So
we'll investigate it.
Yep. Heather had a comment. If we do set up our lounge, we should do a show on all the stories you were told, as long as we get names in there. There's permission to use their names and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that crossed my mind as well, and then it's just we got to figure out the liability of it and the release side of it. But yeah, I agree.
You're gonna have to work on the release form, Jamie.
Start typing.
I'll get my crack legal team on it. Here we go. See, it's
right
back to the legal episode.
Uh-huh.
Is that your dog? Is he the legal team?
Yeah, pretty much.
Perfect.
Still sniff it out.
Perfect.
See, free jokes, folks. Free jokes.
That's what we're selling.
All weekend, huh?
You guys are stuck with me. It's going to be great.
I can bring the book that Alex was given that is 101 Terrible Dad Jokes.
Well, it's official. He's a dad. So
he is.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, any other thoughts before we wrap this up? I know it's a little early, but, some nights it's just got to be that way.
All's well. Yeah. Thanks, Jed. Again, this was a fun topic. And really
I liked it.
Very cool. Sometimes the ones that you don't think, well, we say this a lot too. There it is. Birds. Yeah, they're not free. We pay the price. Yeah. Fair enough. No such thing as free.
No.
Right. Sometimes when you have it, I've done this. I know you've done it before too. We have a topic we feel won't go very long. It winds up being forever.
Mm-hmm.
And some, when we're researching them, it feels like this is going to go on forever, and it's a short one,
right?
A shortish one. I think it's important that every story has its line of conversation and its lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
And some are long, some are short. It's the conversation that comes after, that continues this. So, folks, if you're out there and it mean that you've got a connection to all of this in some way, or any of this in some way, share it with someone else. Keep the conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what the community is all about: just sharing and engaging. And that's the point of us asking about folks' journey in the paranormal. It's not we're not trying to oh yeah, I did that too. It's not a one-up thing. It's an expansion, an extension of all of us, and how far we have and how deep and wide the community really is in this together. So look forward to seeing you out there.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, on that note, we'll wrap this up and prep for next week. Jamie, you're going to be on the spot next week. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah.
So, from whispered hauntings to written verdicts, the line between belief and evidence can be razor thin. So, until next week, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, everybody.